Welcome back to Impact Innovators with Felicia Ford. I'm your host, Felicia. All month, we've been together right here celebrating Black motherhood in every way through family, friendships, community, remembrance. We've talked honestly about a lot of things. How we hold space for one another, how we keep our cups full, and the ways that we can stay rooted in joy and self care and acknowledgement and sisterhood and community, true community, right? How we can remove some of the labels that have been placed on us or things that have been expected of us to be more or to do more without taking care of ourselves first. Along the way, we've unpacked this conversation a few times, and we're bringing it back for the last time because it's been something that's really resonated with our community by show of support and feedback. And it's just, I'm going to pause for a second because it has been an overwhelming response to what it's meant for you to receive the space and the conversation around Superwoman syndrome for Black women. And I'm sitting here and I'm raising my hand. I have my own experience with it. And so I'm standing with you. But today we're having our final conversation in that series as we bring National Black Girl Month to a close today. And while we celebrate being Black women and Black girls 365, we only celebrate National Black Girl Month in April. And so it's been an incredible month. And I want to just thank each and every one of you for listening, for sharing, for caring, for speaking, for all the ways that you have honored yourself and your sisters and your mothers and your friends and your daughters. It's been an incredible thing to witness. And also, I'm so excited that I actually got to experience it this year. So I just want to say thank you. And we're going to keep that momentum going in the sanctuary and the strategy. Dr. Rikesha Fry Brown and I are committed to continuing in providing this type of experience for you. And so we've created the sanctuary and the strategy. While Dr. Rikesha will be focusing on wellness and self-care, I will be focusing on the strategy, career, business, psychology of money, and wealth building. And we, of course, are going to invite you in, my friends, to share your questions, share your feedback. Let us know what you want, what you need. We're going to talk about our faith and relationships. Today's a busy day because today at 3 p.m., I'm also going to be hanging out with the longtime friend and fellow Black woman business owner, changemaker Famira Green, as she is hosting this week Echelon Live. And that's going to be happening through Saturday. It's a virtual summit and it's complimentary for you to attend right now. I'll be there alongside some other inspiring, incredible women, changemakers like Kim Cole, actress, comedian, bestselling author, and other incredible women who are leading their spaces. I'll tell you a little bit more after that conversation today, but quick note before we get into the conversation, I believe in the power of real dialogue, even when the tech doesn't cooperate. So there are some distorted sections in today's episode due to background noise. And while we did our best in post production, you'll hear it in a few places. That said, the substance is still solid. So if you're here for the gems, keep listening. Let's dive in. Black women are often called to the backbone of our families, our communities, our workplaces. We lead, we nurture, we build, but at what cost? Katina Barnes has spent her life pouring into others, strengthening families, empowering communities, and mentoring the next generation. With a background in social work, education, and workforce development, she has created transformational programs for students, women, and families across Virginia. As the founder of Butterfly Village Incorporated, she leads initiatives like She Can STEM Academy, exposing young girls to careers in science and technology. In her role as assistant director of the Monarch Internship and Co op at Old Dominion University, Go Monarchs. She helps students gain real world experience to launch successful careers and through decades of leadership, whether serving on boards, leading ministries, or advocating for women's empowerment, Katina is a force for change. Even change makers have limits. Even leaders need space to rest. In this conversation, Dr. Rikesha Fry Brown and I sit down with Katina to talk about the realities of Superwoman syndrome, how the pressure to do it all impacts Black women's well being, what happens when we refuse to set boundaries, and how we shift from surviving to thriving. Katina,
Hello.
hi, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. When you were talking, I was like, is she talking about me? Oh my gosh.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You've done a lot. I'm excited to see you. It's been years since we've seen each other. And even when we saw each other then, it was virtual. Even back then, Katina was working with mothers and parents. And it is just amazing to see how your career has blossomed and bloomed and you are continuing to serve. So, again, welcome. And since you've spent your career building these programs, supporting families and students and women, when do you when did you realize that even the people doing the pouring need to be poured into?
That is an excellent question. And I love that question. I'll be honest with you. I was, as I have said this multiple times, I was good and grown, right? I was really good and grown into my career. And it wasn't really until I was in the bed and literally physically couldn't move because the burnout is real.
Mhm.
You know, when you were reading those things about this person who I didn't know you were talking about, it was me. It kind of took me back. It took me back, and then even your story sharing when I met you, my mind went back and like, wow, I have done some amazing things, and so grateful for that. And I don't think that's any of my doing. That's all because I have a strong faith and I believe that I've been placed here on this earth to do a certain thing. So, wow, how grateful I am. But in all of that going and all of that trying to climb and all of that trying to achieve and all of trying to be perfect for who, it sat me down. And it was not until then I said, wow, what girl, what you doing? Um, I had to learn really how to pour into myself. I've learned um, my anything dealing with water. So the sound of water, the beach is my place. Sand between my toes. That is what I know when I need that. Like right now, ooh, I need that. I need that. So it really wasn't until years and years of running and climbing and really literally couldn't physically move because of all of that. And I didn't take care of myself. It was in the bed when I realized you got to do something different.
I think it's interesting the common thread of women who are doing this work of the self-care journey and highlighting the inadequacy of the superwoman syndrome and that badge of honor that we carry. The commonality is that rock bottom moment that we have
Mhm.
all run into a spot. We hit a wall and we just could not go any further. And we knew that it had to stop. Something had to be different. And in true Black woman fashion, once we started the journey of healing for ourselves, because I don't know that we're ever all completely healed from it, right? Because it's ingrained in who we are that we keep going, that we keep moving on. Then we were like, oh, I got to tell my sisters, like, I need to help other women know what this looks like and understand it as
Yes.
well. And so, you know, briefly for me, I was having muscle spasms and they were so bad that I could not sit. I could only stand or lay. I couldn't sit without feeling pain. And I went to the emergency room and the doctor said, I can't even believe you walked in here. She's like, I can see the muscle spasm through your skin. I don't even have to touch you. And
Oh
that's
my
how
God.
bad the spasm was. And even in that, I just went to work and stood at my desk because I still had things to do. And I would suffer through to get in the car, and I would suffer through to lay it down in the bed, and then I'd be okay until I could get up and suffer some more the next day because I still had things to do. And that was the first moment for me where I was like, this is not sustainable.
Mhm.
I I have burned the candle on both ends. I've done what they said I was supposed to do. And I love how you said, trying to be perfect for who? I don't even know who they were, right? But I did all the things that I thought they wanted me to do. And I didn't really have anything to show for it, but some pain and some discomfort and some burnout. Accomplishments, of course, but nothing for myself. Right? And so
Mhm.
when we think about the superwoman syndrome, we know that it often goes unnoticed because we're praised for handling it all. We are praised for continuing to go, continuing to move, continuing to push. What are some of the hidden costs that you see that Black women are paying for constantly being in that role?
I would say, thinking about my personal life and some of my colleagues, my peers, sometimes you cost your family, you know. I can speak about, I have one child, one son who's grown now, but I can recall missing a few very important baseball games. My son's a baseball player, and who lived in a two-parent household, and I can remember telling my husband, "No, you go. I have to go to this." Um, Thankfully, it did not interrupt, but I could see, if not caught, how it could cost you relationships and cost you your family. Definitely your health. When you talked about those muscle spasms, that right there is my stress indicator. My neck and my back. I've been there. I don't know what they're called, but ergonomic desk. I used to have one of those. So when my muscle spasms would come, I'll just put my desk up and stand. How crazy is that? Right? So your health, definitely. Um, I left a career because I had a medical scare. And I said, no, 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 I'm leaving. And people thought that I was losing it. I had people who didn't talk to me for a minute because how dare you leave this good job with good insurance and benefits, right? But myself, my health, me was so much more important. And I knew that I was going to be taken care of. So, I mean, there's so many things that nothing is more valuable than who you are. The
Yeah.
jobs, the medals, the all of that is just stuff. And again, it took me a long time to be able to say this. And some even now I have to catch myself. I have to catch myself. But nothing is more important than your health. All we have is, we have been given this body, we've been given this mind, and we have choices,
Mhm.
that we must make. I don't know if you ever heard this, but growing up, I was taught not to be selfish. Share. But when I think of selfishness, in my life now and this season that I'm in, I'm very selfish, especially selfish about my time and how I spend my time and where I spend my time or who I spend my time with.
Mhm.
So I think it's okay to be selfish to a certain extent.
I agree. I have a strong no, and people have questioned it, and some people, like you said, some people stop talking to you, and I'm like, "That's fine. That's okay." Because the people who respect your boundaries and the people who really care about you will honor that boundary or will ask you, "What can I do for you?" Right? Or is everything okay? Instead of you're making the wrong decision. And so I applaud you for recognizing that in your journey as well. But you balance so much between the career and ministry and your nonprofit and community work and did I read that you're a grandma?
Yeah.
Such a joy. But we have this, the whole epitome of the Superwoman syndrome is we're supposed to be strong. Dr. Rikesha said that earlier. We all, I think, have ascribed to this. I don't know whose voice it is either. We're supposed to go and get this degree. We're supposed to do that. And I know that the three of us can have this conversation. In academia, it's something else for
Mm.
black women. Who started this?
Let's find her now. Or somebody, let's
Right.
find whoever it is now.
It's a completely different culture in academia. And I'm sure there's a culture in corporate America as well. And even in the nonprofit space, which you can also relate to, there is this, oh, she'll fix it. She'll handle it. There's a new program. She'll do it. There's a question that the provost has. Ask her. There's a special project. She can do it. Society and these different cultures have set us up for this, but who is and this is just a question for the floor at this point, but who is responsible for this? And I guess identifying who can help us in identifying what can we change in these spaces? What can we do? What do you think, Katina?
I wonder if the who sometimes is us. I wonder, is it us? I wonder, are we trying to prove a point? Are we trying to, in the midst of trying to get to the top, let me show them what I can do?
Mm,
Because it's been ingrained at us that we are the strong Black woman. We have come from families that consist of single moms. And mom did it all. Mom was mom, tried to be dad, tried to be the fixer, the provider. Um, I think about my mom. My mom was married just a small, short period of time, but for the most part, she was the girl. I remember my mom working 3 jobs and taking care of the house and taking care of me and my sister. I didn't realize at the time, but I didn't realize that, you know, we were barely making it. But I thought we were good because my mom was showing that she had it all together. So I don't know if that has anything to do with, but maybe the who is us putting that expectation on who we are. Let me go show them I can do this program with 2 people, right? I don't know who the who is. I don't know, but sometimes I think it can be us.
we've all had our experiences with burnout, and maybe if it is us, then we still have had some type of conditioning to even begin to think that way about ourselves. So what do we do now that we've had those experiences? What do we say? What do we advocate for in spaces? How do we change this narrative?
There's some things that I had to begin to do for me when I discovered that, girl, your health is so important and you are so important. I had to kind of relinquish some control. I don't know. I am a recovering control freak. I it's it everything is not in my control. It's not even about me, right? So I have to constantly say, Katina Barnes, you don't have control over this, right? I had to kind of relinquish that. And maybe that's in part of my faith. But we can't do it all. We can't do it all, especially by ourselves. So relinquishing the control and making sure that there's a tribe of women in your circle, in your village, that is there to help you. And embracing my imperfection.
Mhm.
Nobody's perfect. If
Right.
I did not put that T on that word, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Keep it moving. It's not that serious.
Yeah.
So really embracing my imperfection. I know that there are some things that I have to work on, and that's what I do. And if I make a mistake, okay, it's
Yeah.
okay.
It's okay.
It's no one is going to. It's just it's okay. It's okay. So for me, relinquishing the control, embracing my imperfections, that's what makes me unique, and setting boundaries. Set those
Mhm.
boundaries.
Mhm.
I like what you said, Felicia, about no. No, I think I heard someone say this. I can't think of her name, but no is a complete answer.
It is.
No, no.
It is. I
I'm so
love
sorry. I
that.
can't do that. Not this week. And I just had to say that to a student who asked for a recommendation letter that's due Monday. No.
Mm-mm.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. I think setting boundaries is really important. If you don't set those boundaries, you will find yourself feeling like a little guppy trying to stay above the water, just
Mhm.
trying to hold on. But you have to set some boundaries in sometimes it's with your family,
Mhm.
your husband, your children, your mamas and daddies. You have to set those boundaries in your workplace. You have to, but your friends, you have to set those boundaries.
Right.
I think when we talk about the who, there's something to be said that we really have to acknowledge with regards to the historical standard of being twice as good to get half as far. And that has played out even in Black spaces that we're given less resources and asked to do twice as much. We're given less help. I can run this program with 2 people, but I shouldn't have to because this program really should be run with 5 people, but you're not going to give me 5 people. And the more we succeed, the less we get, the more that's taken from us in that space. And so when we just kind of look at the trajectory of how we got to that space, it's not that we don't want to continue to be successful, but that we have also now understood that our success should not come at the cost of ourselves,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And so you took the word out of my mouth when I was going to ask you a question about boundaries specifically, but you also spoke about it earlier, how we disassociate. Is that a word? It's a word today. How we disconnect boundaries and selfishness. And I'd just like to hear a little bit about what you think about that because people sometimes will apply selfishness to people who are instilling boundaries. And I think that's something else we have to unlearn. What are your thoughts?
I haven't always done that. I had to learn it because I feel like if we don't set those boundaries, let me just say this. So I am a seasoned woman, right? So I am in a season where I am starting, taking care of my parents and starting to see people leave here from this earth, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And it really does something different when you are of a certain age and you're like, wow, life is way too short. If those boundaries aren't set, again, we have this choice. We are choosing this lifestyle, whether we think so or not. We're choosing this lifestyle. But those boundaries have to be set if you want to live this purposeful, beautiful, enjoyable life.
Mhm.
I don't know if that answers your question, but that's just how I see it. And it's hard to do. It is hard to do. I have a young lady here who is one of my colleagues here in the office, and she's in her 20s, and she said to me, "I'm surprised you're not going to go for that job." Mm-mm, I'm good. I'm good because I know. I mean, I've been there, done that, so I know what the cost is. I'm
Mhm.
going down the mountain now. I'm going down the mountain. I'm getting ready for retirement to do something different. And that doesn't mean that life stops, but I just choose what I put my energy into. That's setting boundaries. I'm not sure if that answered your question, Dr. Rikesha.
It does. If you spoke about it before about being selfish with your time. And I think
Yeah.
the only part I would like to hear a little bit more about is just destigmatizing selfishness for Black women.
Well, because we've been taught that we shouldn't be, right? We've been taught that we need to give, give, give. It's going to take a lot of advocating for ourselves, the tribe of women that we choose to bring into our village, because we have been taught to just do, take care of her, take care. You still can do those things, but you have to set those boundaries. And it has to be a group effort. I have friends who we have this conversation, and it has to be unlearned, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 You have to put yourself first. When I say selfishness, I don't mean don't do anything, don't
Right.
share, but you have to set those boundaries so that you can be healthy.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. As you all were speaking, I had a memory of when I was in my fellowship at Harvard, and we were in a sub cohort of doing a project, and someone brought to our attention, I'm going to read it here, dismantlingracism.org. And it talks about white supremacy culture by Thema Okun and of DR Works. And it lists these characteristics of white supremacy culture. And I'm just going to read them without the bullets: perfectionism, sense of urgency, defensiveness, quantity over quality, worship of the written word, only one right way, paternalism, either or thinking, power hoarding, fear of open conflict, individualism, I'm the only one, progress is more, bigger, objectivity. And as we were trying to figure out whose voice, whose voice is it, I think a lot of those things are rooted
Hmm.
in this, right? Like that
Hmm.
sounded to me like Superwoman, Superman,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And I'll share that with y'all later. But and there's a partial bibliography. There is research behind that. But you also said, Katina, and I've heard you mention this at least 3 times now, the village of women that you choose. I am back and forth between real life and social media because that's a little bit of the business. But I see so many groups of women who they come together to group together, but it's not always because they have identified aligned values and aligned things where they feel psychologically safe or safe. They might feel safe enough to share their new outfit or their trip, but the type of village speak
Hmm.
that you're talking about is on a different level. So share with us, Katina, what does that village look like? And of course, it'll be different for different people, but we're not just talking about I shared my Instagram photo with you or you liked my TikTok.
Mm-mm. And I will say, okay, so we all are associated with several different groups, right? You have maybe your neighborhood friends, and maybe you have your church group, and maybe you have your sorority, and maybe you have, you know, the village I'm talking about is, and when I think of when I say this village, it doesn't have to be multiple. It could be
Mhm,
one or two, right?
mhm,
But
mhm,
this village, and you said it, really aligns with where you are in this season of life. We all go through different seasons, right? But as I'm talking, I'm thinking about my village, and it's 3 or 4 of them. That's my village, and they are going to be my biggest cheerleaders. They also going to tell me I'm dead wrong,
mhm,
and I'm not going to take offense to it.
mhm,
They're going to pray with me. They're going to help me and send affirmations. They're going, like, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about my village, because I know I call them my people. They my people. When you find your people, you will know
yeah,
you got your people. And
yeah,
that's no shade against the other groups of people that
right,
we have in our lives, but you need a few good girlfriends,
mhm,
um, that are going to be your biggest. self, they have your best interest
Right.
every single time,
Right. Right.
and not the ones that's going to sugarcoat. And I love that because we all want to hear, "Well, you're doing good. That looks good." Knowing doggone well that no, you know. But those are the girls who are going to give you the realness, the authentic themselves.
Mhm.
That's the village I'm talking about. And not everybody has that. And can I
Right.
say I haven't always had that.
Mhm.
I have not always had that. I hear women say all the time, too many times, I don't hang around with women. What? I hate to hear that
Mhm.
because with that terminology, I am my sister's keeper. I mean that wholeheartedly.
Right.
And that's what I'm looking for. And I have a good, cute little village that
Yeah.
I can say they are my sister's keeper.
I love that. I love that. As we mentioned earlier, you're a mother, a grandmother, a leader, and many women that are listening can also relate to wearing all of these hats. And hopefully, they've also been able to take some nuggets from what does my village look like? But how do we model for this next generation, not
Mm.
trying to sustain this superwoman syndrome? Let's put it down now. What can we do?
Oh, I said a few years ago that I would not continue, I would never go back into academia. But here I am, right? And I sit and I talk with students, women, young women who are really just trying to find their way. Some of them, I see myself and I say I have an obligation to talk because there are many things that my mom we didn't talk about things. We didn't talk that real talk. So I think we have an obligation to talk about the subjects that may be difficult. Talking about, just take one thing at a time. You don't have to, this doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. If you make a mistake, it's okay. So
Mhm.
talking to them, making sure that we're pouring back into whatever space you're in, whether your place of work, your business, your neighborhood, it could be the grocery store. When I see something that I think should be addressed, I do it. And sometimes it's uncomfortable, but we do it uncomfortably.
Right.
So pouring into this next generation. And I think a lot of times, and I've seen this, they're not always open to it. That's old school, as my son would say, right? But don't let that deter you. Despite their values and the way they do things, just find a way to be relatable. Just find a way to get your message in there and just plant those seeds. We may not be able to see the growth or the final product, but as long as, because we have an obligation to the next generation. So pouring into this group just simply by talking and modeling, right?
Mhm.
Modeling. My
Mhm.
goodness.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, that's the two things that I would say. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I think I miss about academia was the pace and the energy, and a student just popping in at any time while you're working on something. It's not office hours, but here they are. Have a
Yeah.
seat, why don't you?
Yes.
Have a
Yes.
seat. That I'm pretty sure is a big thing for those students that are able to do that with you, and I think it's an incredible space to be in. I mean, I remember, and I don't know if you were in an advisor capacity as well, but when I was at ODU, my advisor was a woman, and because I was a lost little child on that campus of Old Dominion University, I had no idea what I was doing. I changed my major 5 times, and, oh Lord, my first semester's GPA was not good.
And that's
But
okay.
and
And
that's
that is
okay.
okay.
That
Yeah.
is okay. And
That's okay.
I think that with this whole superwoman syndrome thing, especially for women who are pursuing their bachelor's degrees, it's a lot of comparison. It's a lot of there's a lot of cultures. At one time, it can be a culture shock. You're living on campus, away from family for the first time, and there
Hmm.
may be this, well, I don't know how to even create a schedule. I don't know what productivity looks like. I don't know. There's just so many things that I think that comes into the development of Superwoman syndrome that
Mm-hmm.
can be dismantled at this point of them interacting before they get to that point of burnout. So I think the more that we talk about what burnout looks like and what our experiences were like,
Mm-hmm.
some will of course do what they want to do, but that's a great takeaway from what you're sharing with us today.
Platforms such as this, just creating safe spaces for women to be able to talk. I'm in this season, and my mom, she didn't talk about menopause, right?
Mhm.
I wish somebody would have talked about it,
Mhm.
because what is so I'm talking about it.
Right.
We need to have those conversations.
Right.
And if we don't know, I'm quick to say I'm not sure about that, but let's research together. That's fine. Let's find out about this. Um, so yeah, it's the power of the tongue, the power of just talking.
Mhm.
And I struggle a little bit in talking, but I find that that's what I'm doing all day long, is talking. Like, really, I mean, yeah, just talking about a topic, a situation, being courageous enough to admit when you're wrong or when you made a mistake, and just being real, just being real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
In 2019, I had a group of students, and the culture on campus was very competitive. Everybody was just trying to one up everyone else. And these children were burnt out. They were not doing well in my class. They weren't doing well in other people's classes. They were shining stars on campus, but as students, they were very dark, very dim.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
I gave them, they were my junior prep class, and I gave them an assignment. In the next 7 days, I want you to do 60 minutes of self care. And they lost it. Like, what? How am I supposed to do that? Where am I supposed to find the time? I can't do this. I can't do that. And I was like, y'all act like I asked you to like move a mountain. Like the question to in 7 days to just set aside 60 minutes for yourself. It didn't have to be 60 consecutive minutes. I didn't tell them how they needed to do it. I just asked them to do it. And what I realized from their response was that we don't know what that means.
Mm.
Actually teach self care. What we teach is accomplishment. We teach success, and we teach the visualization of success, but not all of the underlying pieces of success, because really successful people are also healthy, right?
Very.
Just
Yeah.
because there are people with success, there are very unhealthy people who look successful and are dying from physical and mental health challenges every single day. And so what I did was develop a self-care course. I developed a full semester long course on self-care, and I taught that class for the duration of the time that I was at the university. And what I loved about it was, one, it took us through the pandemic. So thank God, because we all needed those skills. But what I learned about our students is that when we talk about self care, we're also often talking about self care at a very surface level. And we're talking about, Robin Gobin tells us that there are 6 domains to self care. I've added my own domain to it. So I say that there are 7. But the one that we generally talk about is physical self care. And the physical self care are the things that people can see on us, right? So going to get my nails done, going to get my hair done, going to the gym, going to the spa, taking a vacation. And it's things that I can take a picture of. But the real work of self care is often different than that. It's deeper than that. And so when we think about self preservation and self care, and we're talking to women at every level, not just young women, what do you say to women about what self care looks like past that treat yourself model, past that narrative?
That mind, honey. Yes. What are you doing for your mind? Mind, that mindset. This reminds me of a conversation I had with a young lady a couple of weeks ago, who is the young woman who you just described. Just that was 2019, but I think there's a lot of that going on now. Just competition, social media, you're trying to keep up with everyone, I talk a lot about stories. Like we all are walking stories. We all have a different story to tell. And I often say, what story are you telling? You comparison, I know it happens, but we really have to that self-talk because you have your own story. Your story is not her story, right? And you are not going to be able to share your full story if you're trying to live somebody else's story.
Right.
But your story has to consist of having a healthy mind. And some of that I talk a lot about. Some people do meditation, some will do prayer, some will do. For me, I take time and just sit and just listen to music, all genres of music, right? I have a playlist and just sit and I just listen to words and just reflect and reminisce. I miss my mom so much. I miss my grandma so much. And like when I am able to do that, it makes me feel better. It kind of brings clarity to my story. So I think that is an important piece because you're right. When you mention self care, you a lot of times we get, oh yes, my nails, and that, as you said, that you can take a picture of. But if your mind isn't healthy, and our culture, it hasn't always been champion to speak to a professional about what's going on in our mind. So therapy, that still some people look at that as that's not the thing that we go to therapy. Yes. That's not always looked at as a good thing.
And you actually mentioned all of the domains in your description. So there's the
No.
intellectual self-care, intellectual self-care, social self-care, the spiritual self-care. I always can't get them out all at the same time. And I just had them on my fingers. Intellectual, spiritual, vocational, social, physical, and medical. So you talked about all of them.
Medical.
And that self-care happens
Yeah,
on all of those levels. And if we are doing the work on all of those levels, then we're more apt to be healthy. And you won't always have to do work on every level. You have to do the
right.
work on the level that you need, right?
That's
If
right.
your
Right.
That's
self
right.
care is taken care of, you already have a regimen for that. You don't have to keep putting all your energy into that. Keep doing what you're doing there, and then focus on the area where you're falling short. Because sometimes it is our spirituality, and the
Hmm.
stress that we are feeling is because we're not spiritually aligned, and we need to work on our self care there. Sometimes because
Right.
we ain't read nothing in days, weeks, or months. Get a book. Think about something at a deeper
That's a
level and
shirt.
break the
Get a
mindless.
book.
Get a book. I know, I need another shirt. But so that intellectual self-care, and so all of those pieces come together to really build a full picture. And so when we think about self-care, we have to think about ourselves holistically in all of the
Mhm.
aspects and areas that we need to be paying attention to ourselves. And we cannot just look at ourselves from one perspective, because if we do, then we're not capable of seeing ourselves holistically or showing up holistically.
And
Mm.
I think we have to, sometimes we may have to teach our young ladies how to do that.
In ourselves.
We have to teach them and not just teach them. Maybe it is say, you know what, girl, I'm gonna pick you up today and we're gonna go and we're gonna walk Mount Trashmore and talk, or we're gonna sit at Mount Trashmore and I don't know. You have to teach them how to do it because they may not know. Because if you haven't been taught, you don't know.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
you're actually going into what was going to be my next question. But in consideration of your nonprofit Butterfly Village, first of all, share with us a little bit about Butterfly Village and then let us know how you are teaching those girls that leadership doesn't always have to come at the cost of sacrificing themselves.
I love talking about Butterfly Village. Butterfly Village is a nonprofit that was birthed years and years ago. And talk about telling a story. Butterfly Village is designed to empower and cultivate change in the lives of women and girls. And that looks very different. There's several different services that we provide in order to cultivate that change. Our signature program is a STEM academy, science, technology, engineering, and math. It's called She Can STEM Academy. And really, that was birthed because of what I saw in academia and talking to girls. I would mention the word chemistry. Ooh, they would take off running. Or I would mention the word physics. Ooh, they go the other way. And and I really wanted to just do something different. I remember being in fourth grade and was told that I was not good in math. And that kind of stuck with me.
Mm.
And I didn't pursue higher level math and science courses because I knew I wasn't good. That kind of was just ingrained in me. So She Can STEM Academy introduces middle school, high school girls to women in STEM fields. And they come to the safe space and show them about their industry, their work. Not just talk about it, but they show them. We're very particular in our workshops. It doesn't feel like school at all. It's very hands-on. So if a pharmacist is going to come, we made some type of bath bomb for the girls to take with them. We show them what this STEM field looks like. We take them to Hampton Roads Transit and we take them to where the train and the buses are manufactured, and we take them to STEM. So letting them see STEM in a different light. We have Women on the Go. It's another program that we are getting ready to launch. And really, Women on the Go is a series of groups, and it can range from parenting all the way to college prep. Again, safe spaces for women to come and learn how to do things differently and really be able to fully identify their potential.
Mm.
That's
Yeah,
what Butterfly Village is.
I
Yeah.
love it.
And what do we do? Lots of modeling, lots of, what really warms my heart. I repeatedly hear this, Miss Barnes, I didn't even know that girls could do that. Oh, that gets me every time. I love that. Yes, yes, you can. Yes, you
Yes,
can do
you
that.
can.
I didn't
Yeah,
realize that was even a career. Yes, and you can do that. We
yeah.
always start our STEM Academy with the first session is what is STEM? And we help them to understand, did you put on deodorant today? We hope you did. Did you brush your teeth? Did you put lotion on? That's science.
Mhm.
There's someone right now at Bath and Body Works lab mixing the next famous scent. That could be you.
Mm,
That could be you. So just helping them to reach their full potential. And we do that in every aspect of our service.
I love that.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
What advice would you give to Black women who feel stuck in the cycle of overcommitting, overextending, and feeling exhausted? Where do they start?
Where do they start? Awareness. I think the first thing is being aware. You have to admit that I'm here. Having to admit that, wow, this cycle has to stop. You have to put yourself first. I think I said this a couple of times. Put yourself first. So putting yourself first and just being aware of where you are. I think I said this too, embracing your imperfection. Just embracing that we're not going to be good at everything. And going back to that village you asked me about, if I know that I'm not great at everything. So maybe there's someone in my village that can come along and help me with this, right?
Mm,
Set those boundaries and self-talk. I talk to myself all the time. I got those stickies all around that remind me of things. Sometimes they're scriptures, sometimes they're just words, sometimes they're affirmations, doesn't matter. Do the work. I think is that Oprah's term? I don't know. Do the work.
I don't know.
Do it. Do the work. You have to, because we have to do it because
Right.
nobody else is going to put us first.
Right.
And when we are comfortable and we feel good about where we are in life, and we're not bogged down with all this stuff. But yeah, yeah, I'm not sure if that answered your question, Dr. Rikesha, but that's what I got.
Thank you so much, Katina. Your work is a reminder that leadership is not about doing it all. Thank you so much for helping us to see what it means to lead with purpose. And thank you so much for helping us not to just lean into obligation.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I hope I was able to articulate what I'm really trying to say, but I haven't been able to always say put myself first.
Right. Right. Well, we've loved your presence. We've loved your message. Any last words that you would like to share with those who are listening about Superwoman syndrome?
A lot of people don't even realize it's a thing. I was talking to someone earlier and she said, "What's that?" I said, "Girl, let's look it up." Right. But I think my last words would just be know your worth, know your worth, put yourself first, and trust in who you are.
Mm, beautiful words. Thank you. Thank you, Katina. How can our audience connect with you if they'd like to after this episode?
Yeah, they can connect with me at www.butterflyvillageinc.org. They can connect with me through there.
All right, awesome. We have heard Superwoman syndrome is a cycle, but it is not one that we have to stay in. Okay. You do not have to do it alone. We invite you to join us. Visit nationalblackgirlmonth.com to access the National Black Girl Month Toolkit for women. And if you are raising a Black girl, there's also one for her too. In the National Black Girl Month Toolkits, there are so many resources that you can access. There's the National Black Girl Month calendar. The digital toolkits are free, but if you would like to purchase a hard copy, you can do that as well. And you can follow us on social at National Black Girl Month. And for the entire month of April, there are live conversations happening right in our virtual community twice a week. Okay, so community. But visit nationalblackgirlmonth.com to learn more. Thank you. That wraps today's conversation. A huge thank you to Dr. Rikesha Fry Brown, my co-host for this special series, to Katina Barnes and all of our other guests for adding their voices to this month-long celebration of Black motherhood. Although National Black Girl Month winds down on the calendar today, the community and the joy continues. We have a wait list. We want you to join us inside the sanctuary and the strategy. You're leading this, my friends. You can see details on page 48 of your toolkit. And if you'd like even more this week, I'm inviting you to grab your complimentary seat at Echelon Live. The link will be in the notes. I will be on the virtual stage with my friend Famira Green today at 3 p.m. Eastern, April 30th, along with actress and author Kim Coles and a roster of women shifting culture in real time. Thank you for listening, for sharing, and for building this movement with us. Season 2 of Impact Innovators continues next week with episodes for the changemaker who wants the blueprint behind movements like National Black Girl Month and publications like Strategic Edge Magazine. We're going to break down positioning, foundations, and processes, all right? I will see you inside the sanctuary or live at the summit. Until then, my friends, take care.